Happy Black History Month, you beautiful nerds. So I couldn't let the month go by without doing some black shit. But I also decided, you know what? Let's keep it fun. Let's keep it light. I just saw that new Bad Boys movie and I couldn't help but think about the trilogy as a whole and how exactly we got to 3 of them and why it looks like we might be getting more. So for this video, I'm not just reviewing the new movie, I'm gonna be reviewing all of the Bad Boy flicks, talking about what made the first one so great, and explain how the franchise has slowly gotten away from what makes it so fun. But first, a prelude. In the year of our Lord 1987, Warner Brothers put out a little buddy film called Critics' reviews and word of mouth turned it into an eventual hit, and it's clear how influential the idea was, because for the next 30 years, every movie studio tried to replicate it.
What the hell did you just say?
This franchise managed to have a pretty long life, spanning over a decade. I think it's really only because of 2 main factors, and neither of them are story. I know, I'm always ranting about how important story is in a flick, but in these big action vehicles, they don't really matter that much. If the original concept is good enough, you can ride that bitch out by doubling down on a couple of factors. Star power and crazy fucking action. It's the formula that the John Wick and the Fast and Furious franchises, try saying that 3 times fast. Fast and Furious franchise, Fast and Furious franchise, Fast and Furious. Hey, there's an Avenger in this movie. Those 2 franchises use the same formula with each sequel. Gun to my head, I couldn't tell you what the fuck happened story-wise in John Wick 3, but I know those fight scenes were dope, and I know Halle Berry was in the movie. Lethal Weapon created this formula. It starts out as a hard-boiled crime thriller, but by the end of the franchise, it's a fucking insane ride with a gaggle of A-list stars. And I was expecting the Bad Boys franchise to go the same direction, but unfortunately it doesn't. But we'll get to that. For now, let's start from the top and talk about... This first movie is a pretty basic 90s buddy comedy. A flashy loose cannon and his by-the-books partner try to solve a thing and end up solving another thing. It's basically Lethal Weapon, but a little younger and a little blacker. Plus, there's a fun added element, a little case of mistaken identity. Téa Leoni's character just saw her best friend get killed. But before she died, she mentioned that a cop named Mike Lowry is the only man she trusts. So she tries to reach out to Mike, but instead she gets his partner Marcus, who pretends to be Mike in order not to lose a witness. This allows for some funny gags and adds a little something extra to the whole buddy cop thing.
You're him, and you be you, but not in front of her.
Let's talk about the music for a minute, because it's the first thing we notice and I love it. The score is so dope. I really like the music style and how the song is like an intro music for the main characters. They play the score a lot too. It accompanies the main characters throughout their investigation and it actually changes in tempo and intensity as the movie does. I was actually getting Beverly Hills Cop vibes when I was listening to the score, and it's a shame they didn't bring it back in the sequels. The cast in this movie is phenomenal. Martin and Will have remarkably good chemistry. You just love to see these 2 bicker with each other. Again, a lot of movies try to pull off this dynamic, and more often than not, they miss the mark.
Oh! Sit your dumb ass down, you ain't make it.
But Will and Martin are a joy to watch, even when they're not killing people. Joe Pantoliano plays the cantankerous commissioner, or captain, or whatever, really well. Yeah, it's a tropey character, but he's still fucking hysterical, and he plays off Will and Martin like they've been doing it for years. And Téa Leoni is an interesting character. You think she's gonna be the chick that fucks Mike, but she's not. You think she's gonna be completely helpless and useless, but she's not. The movie comes dangerously close to putting her in a stereotypical damsel in distress box that a lot of female characters were put in back when... Actually, movies still do that. But Téa's character is pretty cool, and she blended well with the rest of the cast, and let's be honest, has Téa Leoni ever looked hotter than she does in this flick? I mean, Michael really made her look, oh, look at that. Bad Boys was Michael Bay's first film. Surprisingly, this is one of Michael's most subtle films. I say that even though this shit happens.
You forgot your boarding pass!
But it still feels pretty restrained compared to his later work. That being said, there are some spectacular shots in this movie, and the stunt work is incredible. Bay is working at the height of his powers in this movie, and there are some moments that are just cinematically masterful. Speaking of which, let's gush over this scene real quick, because this is the best 30 seconds of the entire franchise, and it's what made Will Smith an action star.
Don't ever say I wasn't there for you.
I love this fucking movie. In this story, they make sure to give Mike and Marcus equal number of cool moments. Mike Lowry is clearly supposed to be the cool one, but Marcus gets a lot of exciting action sequences. And most importantly, he's actually useful.
Can you stay focused? What are you talking about? I'm focused. Yeah, focused on all this scattered ass around here. Let's do what we came to do and get the fuck out of here.
And the final shootout is the stuff of great action movies. We get one-liners, we get explosions, both our protagonists get shot, Tay Leone saves Will Smith, we get a cool car chase, and all of our heroes laughing joyously in the sunset. My ranking, I fucking love this movie. Let's see if they can keep the magic going. Bad Boys 2 is a fucking insane film. It does a good job of upping the star power by throwing in Henry Rollins and the amazing Gabrielle Union. Gabrielle Union is structurally Téa Leone's character from the first movie, but she's a cop, so she's a little more capable. Joey Pants is back in this movie, and he's funny as ever.
Do you both wake up in the morning, call each other up? Good morning, Marcus. Good morning, Mike. How you doing? All right. So, how are we gonna fuck up the captain's life today?
Martin and Will still have amazing chemistry in the sequel, and their back and forth has a lot of genuinely funny moments that I kind of forgot about.
What? Look at your pupils. Well, how am I gonna look at my pupil? Well,
A couple of the jokes don't really land, but Mike and Marcus are still fucking awesome to watch. Except in this film, they do make a weird decision to make Marcus the funny doofus who doesn't really do much. His story arc of going to therapy and getting in touch with his feelings makes him kind of bad at his job and makes him look considerably less badass next to Will Smith.
So we just want to talk. You want to talk? Well, go ahead. Go ahead. We're not immigration. They can't hear you because they're still shooting at you.
It's a weird story arc, but it doesn't ruin the movie. But I'll get to that later. The music takes a big step backwards too. The score that was so awesome in the first movie, yeah, that's gone. Instead, we get this.
I see you, Cooler. Bad Boys 2, the soundtrack. Let's go.
And they play the shit out of that fucking P. Diddy song. If you replace every time they played that P. Diddy song with a theme from the original, it would have felt more like a continuation of the first movie, rather than a commercial for a shake your tail feather. It doesn't ruin the movie, but it's just fucking annoying. Bad Boys 2 is about 30 minutes longer than the first one, and it feels like it. A couple of the action scenes look expensive, but are boring and not really necessary. Some of the sequences are pretty amazing though. The car chase scene on the freeway is sick.
You see that? They throwing cars. How am I not see that?
And that scene in the Haitian's house was pretty interestingly shot. Some of the action scenes last a little too long, and by the time we get to Cuba, I'm ready for the movie to end. It's like, fuck, we're going to Cuba now?
Fellas, we going on a boat ride to Kung Fu Island.
Even though Michael Bay is twice as leery and gross in this one, and a little too impressed with his own action sequences, Bad Boys 2, Two Boys Too Furious is dumb as fuck, and I liked it a whole bunch. Gas was dope, the action was twice as insane, and for the most part, the movie wasn't boring. But we'll get to that right now. So this movie started out pretty good. It kicks off with an intense car chase scene and some dope car stunts. Will and Martin get some fun back and forth in.
Hey! Oh, shit. Come on, man.
You could get that buffed out.
No, you can get that buffed out.
And we get a fun callback to this scene from the second movie. Then the title card comes up and they play this song. Holy shit, they brought back the score for this movie. I suddenly thought, hey, this movie might actually be good. This might be everything I dreamed it would be. But that was the last time I had any fun in this movie. Shortly after this scene, Will Smith gets gunned down and is incapacitated for 6 months. And Martin Lawrence retires and makes a promise to God not to bring any more violence into the world. As soon as I heard this, I was like, nigga, what? Didn't we do this in the last movie already? He was doing all that woo-saw shit in Bad Boys 2, and then by the second half of the movie, he went back to the same old Marcus. So why the fuck are they doing this now? And at least in the last movie, it was actually helpful. He wasn't actively trying to kill anyone, but he wasn't fucking useless.
Your badge! He has a gun! Shoot him!
This character arc just keeps him from being able to do the job that he came out of retirement to do in the first place. He might as well just stay retired. And all the side characters are fucking stupid. Remember when I said you gotta throw star power at these action sequels? Well, these guys got Vanessa Hudgens. And this fucking guy. So after Will heals up and decides to go after the guy who tried to kill him, nothing happens plot-wise for about another hour. Then, in the third act, we finally find out what the fuck this movie's about. The main villain is an old flame of Mike's, and the guy who tried to kill him is actually his son. This whole storyline comes out of nowhere, and because of the pacing, it seems rushed and dumb. Martin and Will have some pretty good lines throughout, but they are all in the trailers. God, I hate fucking trailers. It was kind of good seeing Marcus and Mike back in action, but sidelining Marcus and the weak-ass new characters made it a little less fun to watch. But at least the action was cool, right? Nah. There wasn't anything spectacular about the action in this one. It wasn't bad or anything, there just wasn't anything as good as this. Or this. Or even this.
There's a papa rat humping the shit out of this mama rat.
One thing that was great about the action in the last two films is they use a lot of practical effects. There's too much CGI in this movie that makes it look fucking ugly. In the whole climax scene, there's so much smoke and fire, it looks like fucking Batman v Superman. Big CGI action sequences kind of bore me. With the exception of the Marvel movies, I mean, that's my childhood, those guys got me hooked. Most third acts of action movies that have a huge CGI battle look kinda lame. I know what CGI looks like, they're not fooling me.
Big CGI fight coming up.
The editing for this movie is also weird as shit. Bay had a lot of camera movements in his movies, but they served the scene a lot more. In this movie, the camera's flinging all over the goddamn place. This has these strange transitions that makes the movie look like a commercial in some places, like it's trying to move at a breakneck speed. But at the same time, the pacing is like weirdly slow and boring. I unfortunately didn't like this movie. It was kind of funny, and I don't ask much from my action movies, but they broke the cardinal rule. You can't bore the audience. And I was bored for more than half of this movie. Which sucks because it's making a bunch of money and it looks like we're getting more of these movies. And a weird TV show. I just hope they correct these mistakes in the next movies and make it a little more fun to watch. My ranking, I didn't love it. Put Will Smith in a Fast and Furious movie. Alright, that's it guys. That was a long one. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and I appreciate all the comments you guys leave. But let me know if you guys have any suggestions for shows or movies you want me to watch and review. You don't think I listen, but I do. Have a good one, nerds, and may the force be with you.